Welcome, everyone, to the EarthWombyn Gathering podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Walls, and if you don't already know, this is a space for deeper conversations, a space for spirituality, higher awareness, multidimensional understanding, healing, consciousness, and human evolution can be explored openly, honestly, and without fear. And this podcast is here for those who simply know that there's more to this reality than what we've been taught. And through these conversations, we explore topics such as consciousness expansion, energetic healing, the original language that some are calling light language, spiritual awakening, multidimensional experiences, earth wisdom, cosmic awareness, and of course, the deeper mysteries of existence. So, wherever you're joining me from tonight, please just take a breath, settle in, and allow yourself to be fully present for what resonates with you in this moment. And that's going to be part of the conversation. So, let's begin. So, I chose the topic for tonight about moving from seeking to remembering because there are so many people right now questioning that you know what you know. A lot of my clients that come to me want to know how do they connect into their higher awareness? How do they trust the answers that they're receiving? And how do they even know where the answers are coming from, right? And those are all good questions. So a higher question right now, because we have all of these people, the universe, I'm going to say the universe has given us social media. The universe has given us movies, television series, podcast, hello, and radio shows, conferences, retreats, workshops, books, recordings. The universe has provided us with a plethora of choices to connect in with other human beings. And what's happened with that is that we tend over time to put our faith and our knowing and our awareness into other places other than ourselves. So when did we learn that someone else knows better than we know? When were we taught that? Maybe there's that old saying, I don't know if you remember this, but I think there's even a book written about it, that everything I know I learned in, what's the word? Was it preschool? Was it elementary? First grade? Anyway, everything that I know I learned at a very young age. Parents, teachers, doctors, religious authorities, spiritual teachers, psychics, and now social media. So at some point, asking others becomes more familiar than asking ourselves. So have you ever listened to a presentation by someone who's considered to be an expert on a subject and just been disappointed because you didn't feel that their level of awareness was aligned with your truth? I mean, there are a lot of times when I can't even listen to certain things, and it's not because they're wrong. It's because my current vibrational reality doesn't align with theirs. And it is like trying to put two magnets together. So And on the flip side of that, have you ever listened to someone who no one knows? Someone on the corner, someone that you met in a restaurant, someone that you met in the airport, and you start having this conversation with this person, and you're just blown away by the level of knowingness, the level of awareness, the alignment between your truth and theirs. And this is the funny thing, is how many times have you developed an alignment with someone under those circumstances? You've run into someone, some odd place, and struck up a conversation, and you think to yourself, oh my God, this is my person. This person thinks exactly the way that I think. And we have so much in common. And then a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year down the road, you look at that person and go, why did I ever think that this person was in alignment with me? We are ever moving molecules of knowingness and energy. And my truth today is certainly not the same as my truth a week ago. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you. Because again, and usually what I'm going through, others in alignment with me are going through. So what's the difference? And we're going to switch because I've got bullets here because, I'm going to go in a million different directions. So I actually made bullets for myself. Aren't you proud of me? Yeah, Beck. And it probably has. So Beck is saying, oh my, this has been my experience for a week or more. Probably so. It's certainly been mine. So bullet number 2, going back, keeping myself on track. What's the difference between information and knowing? And that really does align with the previous statements. So you can read 100 books about something and still not know it. Sometimes we know something profoundly without being able to explain how. Raise my hand on that one. That is me, because why I have to make notes. When I'm in a group of people and I'm talking, for instance, our frequencies begin to align or feed off each other. They don't always align, but our frequencies begin to interact. That's a better way to put it. Our frequencies begin to interact with one another, and it prompts more information, more knowledge and wisdom to come through. And so for me, doing this podcast without constant interaction is really hard for me, which is why I had to make bullets to keep myself on track. So the thing about reading all these books and not knowing all this information is, if you are reading a book that someone has referred you to, or watched a movie that someone has referred you to, or a video, and you have no particular feelings toward it, it just means that your frequency, your current vibrational awareness is not in alignment with that one. You can go back next week and watch that and totally get it, totally align with it. But at that moment in time, you are not in alignment with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, that's the way it should be, shouldn't it? Because If you are always in the same state of mind, if you are always at the same vibrational frequency, I don't know. I think they call that death. Maybe not a physical death, but a death of growth, a death of connection, a death of awareness. You should always be shifting your perspective. You should always be shifting your awareness. You should always be expanding and contracting. You're not always going to be expanding either. So another of my bullet points was, why do we keep asking for confirmation? And all of this because I thought the conversation was going to go in a direction, and it's not. It's going in a different direction. Yeah, if there was only expansion, you'd explode. That's true. I mean, you have to. There has to be expansion and contraction, expansion and contraction. That's the movement, isn't it? So we were going to talk about your awareness, your higher awareness. And like I said, this conversation is sort of taken off in different directions. So, but let's do back up, because they're telling me that this is important information for someone. Maybe not those of you that are online with me right now, but it is important information for someone. And because this podcast is recorded and posted onto YouTube, where most people access it on YouTube, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but I mean, I couldn't have 1,000 people on this anyway. I would rather they access it on YouTube. So let me stay on track, although you know how hard that is for me. So learning to trust our own awareness. Why do we keep asking other people for confirmation? You know, those times that you might say, you know, you call your aunt, your best friend, your mentor, or seek out a psychic, and they tell you what you already knew, right? But you didn't trust that you know what you know. And so, is that about fear? Is that about programming? Is that about distrust in your own self? Because genuine knowing is usually surprisingly quiet. You know, we ask other people for their feedback, for their awareness, for their advice, because we think that they know more. But what about if it's not about them knowing more? What if it's about us just wanting confirmation for what we already know? I mean, we're human beings. We were given the gift of conversation and speaking, and we've become very dependent on it. So I'd like to ask you to just, we're going to break away for a minute. I'd like to ask you to just close your eyes and take a breath. And let me see where they want us to go with this. Peatua na makaya lere ohun shi para. De mo in para e hanaroko ilai ashana na mohipa. Jamea na iata de eke ukoroi mata. Te meambai an na tohuipa. Honkipa aheshelo unchoroi in mararaya lai etero ukabai. Devi ba ea popohetai. Un te balai etero oi enkash. Oye me esha ando honde de eturu oi libi. Due manai andatahue ili ako. There are just some things that cannot be said in English words. There are just some things that don't convey the depth of information and awareness that your higher self, the universe, source, wants you to know. And when that happens, they talk to you through a different language, the original language. Because this one goes past your judgments, your ego, your tendency to break down words and syllables. De aloe makayahandoro inga ba ehadai. Ule da ba ye rashon karebayana mo itara o eli. One bebe a wahankaya a japoe etera o kalai a mero e merekai en ruist. Haye me antaho mayak. Gai en da ahwe ibede e. Ui maana na ye jara bokui kalabaya. So they're telling me that many of you, and again, not just the ones online here with me, but the ones that are going to be watching later, many of you have either been linked into your higher awareness for years and years, but now you're beginning to question that you know what you know, because we're being bombarded by outside influences. We're being bombarded by outside frequencies meant to block our higher awareness. And we're being bombarded with doubt. They're using the word doubt. And so there comes a time when we have to stand in our own sovereignty. And that's a big word. It's a big word that's come into my awareness, my books, my brand, my podcast, my presentations. Sovereignty and the law of free will just has and remembering who you are. Those are phrases and topics that have just taken over everything that I do, because it is important for us to know that right now. And so even if even if we no, they're still talking to me. He alaurere ke bea wan ba hashe and totorong got by. Ne momoe ba by a shoro ko nai. Ne luan ma me eche o loko in kabaye e she toa ma e no a. So they're those are, for those of you that don't know, the original language speaks to us in codes and frequencies, and they're using the word molecules. They like the word molecules lately. I don't know why, but they're speaking to us in frequencies and codes that go into our actual biologics and they shift everything. And so there's no way to put into words these transmissions. And they do that because they want to bypass your judgment, your criticism, your fear, your programs. And so what you're going to find outside of this recording is that you begin to connect, you begin to trust, the awareness that's coming to you, even if it's slowly, even if it's bit by bit, one message by one message, one dream by one dream. You're going to begin to trust little tiny knowings. And even they're saying, even those of you who have been doing this for a long time and feel as though you've been connected to your higher awareness, you've been connected to your angels, your guides, your helpers, that's going to shift for you, because we have too long been dependent on outside knowledge and awareness and outside influences. And that was okay when it was safe. But and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. They do want me to say to you, though, that outside influences may not be as safe as it used to be for us. And we need to begin to trust our inner knowing, our inner awareness. And doesn't mean you have to stop reading books. It doesn't mean you have to stop communicating with other human beings. It means that maybe you can ask the question, can I receive information from another person, place, or thing without surrendering authority over my own awareness and knowing? Because maybe remembering isn't about recovering information that was hidden from you. Maybe it's about recognizing something that you've always known when you finally come across it again. And when you finally learn to trust that you know what you know, suddenly books, teachers, mentors, sessions, even what I'm sharing with you here now, they aren't here to give you truth. They're here to become mirrors that help you recognize your own truth. So maybe the question isn't, who can tell me the answer? Maybe the question is, what do I already know that I'm waiting for someone else to give me permission to trust? And that goes back to those that are still listening to other people and not their own higher awareness. So, let me go to the chat. Oh, yeah. I love you so much, Beck. You've got to be a guest again. So an extension of this topic goes into the current astrological announcements. And those of you that know me know that when people start talking about astrology, my head starts spinning and green soup comes out. I don't know astrology from math, and I don't know math. So, but but there is a larger conversation right now that they're talking about an unusually concentrated astrological movement occurring right now. So, for instance, I had to Google this. Today, August 12th, there's a new moon and a total solar eclipse in Leo. Now, one of my sisters on here is in Australia. So it's no longer the 12th for her, it's the 13th for her. So she's already experienced that eclipse and the new moon. So for us here, the knowledge and information was, while Saturn and Neptune are both in retrograde in Aries, Pluto is in retrograde in Aquarius, Uranus is newly established in Gemini, and Jupiter is in Leo. And again, that's all a different language for me. Mercury is also making contact with Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus today. So where many astrologers are independently using words such as ending, disruption, revelation, change, new beginning, and that's why I wanted to bring this up to you, because it is a part of the conversation. They aren't inventing the underlying astrological concentrations. What is interpretation, though, is what those configurations mean for human consciousness. So some people, when you talk about struggle, because I listened to this one astrologer who was just taking me down a very deep rabbit hole. All the things that, relationships ending, jobs ending, finances going haywire, computers, communities, government. So while some people are interpreting this as a time of struggle, what if struggle isn't what this period is about? What if struggle is what happens when something that has completed itself is still being held in place? That expansion and contraction that we talked about. There's a profound difference between change being painful and resistance to change being painful. And mostly what we're experiencing is the resistance to expansion. So think about what people are experiencing right now. Again, relationships changing, identities no longer fitting, careers losing meaning, friendships falling away, old spiritual teachings no longer resonating, places suddenly feeling wrong, bodies asking for different things, and an almost inexplicable sense of can't continue doing it this way, but I've been doing it. So that's where I've been. That's where I've been right now. And I've been at this place where for, I want to say 4 months, 5 months, been at this place where long-term, maybe longer than 5 months, long-term relationships, deeply embedded relationships ending because we no longer are in frequency alignment with one another. We just, we found that we couldn't have a conversation, just couldn't have a conversation. And for me, in this last week or maybe 2 weeks, of course, I just got back from the UK, and that was that was 3 intense weeks of doing spiritual work, clearing, receiving, integrating, sharing. So I do take that into consideration, but what I've been feeling this last week or 2 maybe is, and this is not suicide talk. I had to clarify that with somebody else recently. This is not suicide talk. This is reflection, right? So the awareness was, what is my purpose? Because it seems that everything has changed. I mean, when your major relationships leave you, then you tend to say, well, what is my purpose here? What am I supposed to be doing? How am I contributing? Because there is that collapse. the expansion and contraction again, right? There's that collapse of the old world so that the new world can begin. And there has to be reflection. There has to be acknowledgement. There has to be growth and shifting before something new can come in. And I think universally, that's what we're doing, even with the weather. I mean, even with, the devastating weather that some areas have experienced, it is still all about expansion and contraction, expansion and contraction. And I'm not sure why they wanted me to come and share this with you, maybe just to give you a sense of you're not alone, maybe. And I'm not saying that you all have to be experiencing this. I hope that you're not experiencing this. But those of you that are, maybe this was about sharing this much with you so that you would have a clearer understanding. And also encouragement to go and ask for yourself, what is this about? Why am I experiencing this? What is the lesson here? What is it that I'm holding on to that is keeping me in a negative space? What is it that I need to allow to move out of my life so that birth can happen? So usually the human being goes into the story, the wounded stories, when things end. There's always the wounded stories. Why is this happening to me? Something is being taken away from me. And even knowing that the truth is there's something that has completed. Nothing's being taken away. There's just something that has completed. Even in the realms of business, friendships, identities unraveling. We very often tend to go into our woundedness in all of that. And it's not until later that we can say, oh, okay, I can see how that might have been required for this to happen. So what if this time of struggle is not about struggle? What if it's about what we can no longer accompany or have in our lives, or we can no longer carry? So what's the difference between an ending and a failure? And why do humans cling to identities long after they've outgrown them? And why is it that suffering, because it's so familiar, can feel safer than unfamiliar possibility? Whether our larger consciousness sometimes knows a chapter has ended before our own human awareness catches up, and how discernment helps us recognize the differences between something that needs our perseverance and something that needs our release. And like I said, this is all personal for me. I've held on to relationships for longer than I should have, instead of releasing them. And that's me personally, because everybody doesn't experience things in the same way. You might have heard me say many times about the story about, or the analogy of 10 people can experience the same thing and they will describe it differently because they each experience based on their own current vibratory rate of perception. So where one person experiences collapse, another person experiences freedom, and another one barely even notices it. And another one suddenly discovers the thing that they've been searching for their entire life that they couldn't get to because there was something in the way. It's the same world, different experiences, different dimensional realities, different vibratory frequency perceptions. They're all words. They're all just words that describe things, and they don't even accurately describe them. So maybe the they're still talking to me. I'm sorry. Pe anna mehianta ye eleki pogoni ni ashta. Elo e behechi o kutebe torori ma la de eteawa. Je emma mohen tata ye leder ko inkibebe isht. So maybe in the way of the current astrological weather, maybe it's not about brace yourself because difficult times are coming. Maybe it's about become conscious of what you're being asked to stop carrying. Because when the old world no longer fits, endings, identity, and the consciousness of change become the current awareness, right? Let me catch up. I'm just reading the chat. Yeah, so Beck, who is in Australia and who is already on the other side of the eclipse, said yesterday was intense energy, eclipsing the things no longer serving our highest good out of our field. Now we have 15 days until bringing in and solidifying the new with the new moon eclipse on the 27th, the last point of interaction before the beginning of the new expansion, the last contraction, not interaction, the last point of contraction before the beginning of the new expansion. So I want to take you all on just a little tiny journey. You know, I love journeys. I love stories and I love journeys. That's what you get, right? So let's go on a tiny journey because I love them. So I want to ask you to close your eyes. I'm going to take a drink real quick. I want to ask you just to close your eyes, take a breath, and release. And I want you to say out loud, and I say out loud because there's something about the disruption of the programs playing in the background whenever you speak something out loud. And you're not talking to me, you're talking to your own higher awareness. So say out loud for me, take me to the great central sun. And then take a breath. And notice. What is the first thing that you notice? Some people experience it as a sudden bright energy. It could be yellow, it could be white, it could be any color. It could be a range of colors, as a matter of fact. Most people experience it as an open space. You may experience it differently. That's the whole point of my conversations with you. You are an individual. You're a sovereign being. So notice what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're sensing, what you're perceiving. And if you don't see, sense, perceive anything, those are only programs meant to keep you small. So in that case, I would like to ask you to say, if I could be in the presence of the great central sun, what would it look like? What would it smell like? What would it feel like? What would I hear? And most of the time, you will get something. You'll get an awareness, a feeling, a vision. For me, I don't see things. I just know what they look like. It's my awareness. There's nothing wrong with that. So I want you to sit there in this space for a minute that we call the great central sun. And just notice what you notice. How do you feel in this place? Do you feel at peace? Do you feel curious? Do you feel safe? What do you feel? And they want to share some frequencies with you just to help you in this space. So Mama yene anko elebe ashta neme untara yene unda ma yene ra eti kua me oshe aneme ra re aneme okale ajigura ye dube atara ra ye ale akonkoi ma ha me unti hadai ashe aluku ingarari eti uhunomoa bedi uhuloi amasht. So I am asking for you, but you need to ask for yourself because you're a sovereign being. You need to ask to become aware of your higher aspect. We're going to use the word aspect. So I want you to ask in whatever way comes to your mind. A suggestion is, what would my higher aspect present to me? What form would my higher aspect present to me? Would it be a light? Would it be a form? Would it be just a color, a frequency? How would your higher aspect present itself to you? How do you know when your higher aspect is there and trying to communicate? And just pay attention. It could be a tap on your shoulder. It could be a light. It could be a feeling of warmth in your heart. It could be a sound. It could be anything. What do you notice? Don't discount anything, because it is, your higher awareness is there. It's not anything you even have to call to yourself. It's a matter of you saying, show me what I need to be looking for, because it's already there. You just need to know how to identify it. And again, it may show as a being, it may show as a sound, a feeling, a smell even. So how does that show for you? And make a note for yourself, because from this second on, this is how you know that you're being given higher awareness. If you're just going about your day and all of a sudden you see, hear, feel, smell this, then you know that your higher awareness is trying to communicate. And so ask, what do I need to know in this moment? And then trust the very first thought, image, feeling, sound, awareness that you get. What do I need to know in this moment? It may be just one word. People often think that there's going to be a long discussion. Sometimes it's just one word, one thought, one image that's representative of the answer. Some of you have been asking, what do I need to do? Maybe you've been asking, maybe you have a challenge, a question, and you're asking, what do I need to do about this? You can ask now. You can ask. And just trust the first thing that you receive. It's not going to look like what you think it should. So that's the test. The test is trust. And they're reminding me that, we often forget that we can ask for help. We can ask for things that we need. And one of the analogies that has always been given to me in relationship to angels is that the angels are just waiting for us to ask for help. And so the angels are simply another version, another aspect of your higher awareness, your oversoul, your monad. The angels are just another aspect of you. So if there's one thing, there's some people that feel as though they need proof, proof of God, proof of higher awareness, proof of oversouls and monads, and they always want proof. Okay, so if you feel as though you need proof, then ask. Give it a challenge. I love challenges. So you could ask something as simple as, if you are real, show me a blue bird in the next 24 hours. If you are real, send money my way, unexpected money, in the next 24 hours. Now, don't be disappointed if you find a penny on the pavement. That's money. So be specific in your request. This is not about ego. This is about building trust between you and your higher awareness. And sometimes that means asking for proof so that you can feel comfortable that you know what you know. There's nothing wrong with that. They don't take offense. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute, just in case you want to use this time and connection to have a greater conversation. So I'm just going to hold space for you for just a few minutes. Begin to bring yourself back into this current time and place. The great central sun is inside of you. It's not outside of you, and you can always go there. So begin to bring yourself back. And then take a breath. Welcome back. So how was that? Would anybody like to share what you experienced? Or are you all still out there? And it's okay to be out there if you're still there. Just stay in that space. You don't have to come back right now. We're at the closing anyway, so stay where you are if you choose. And I need to formally close the podcast. So I want to thank you for joining me today for the EarthWombyn Gathering podcast. I truly believe that conversations like this matter, and every time that we gather in intentional space, we help to create more awareness, more compassion, more remembrance, not only for ourselves, but for the collective as well. And my hope is that something that I shared here with you today sparked a new insight, maybe activated a deeper level of understanding and awareness, or maybe just reminded you that you're not alone on this journey. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to share it with others who might benefit from these conversations and explorations. You can learn more about my work at patriciawalls.com. I've switched my website from a .net to a .com. You can find me on either one. So there you can learn more about my work, upcoming events, books, having a session with me, and courses. Another way to contact me is through earthwombyn.com, and also Unlocking the Mysteries of Light Language. And again, this replay is going to be on my YouTube channel. It's Patricia Walls, but if you Google EarthWombyn Gathering Podcast, you'll find it. Please do share it. Share it with others that you think may benefit from it. And if you are someone that you know would be a great guest here on the podcast, please do connect with me through patriciawalls.com. And we can talk about the possibilities of you coming and sharing with us. So meanwhile, stay aware, stay sovereign, and continue listening to the wisdom that's already inside of you. It's just about that little tiny word called remembrance. So thank you all. I love you so much. And thank you all for joining me tonight. I'll see you next week.